This is the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast, episode 558.
I program my home computer.
We have a server crash, 404 error, page not found, links aren't working, system is crashing, system is crashing, system is crashing.
Your old HTML website, barely alive. We have the technology. We have WordPress. A new website, better than it was before. Better, stronger, faster.
We have the technology.
Hello, everybody. This is Adam Silver, the host of the Kitchen Sink WP Podcast. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. All right, upcoming events. We have a whole bunch next weekend. There's four WordCamps. Anyway, so first and foremost, Rome Core Days, November 8th and 9th, obviously in Rome. And just to FYI what that is about, it says here, Core Days will be a 2-day event dedicated to WordPress core developers with roundtables, open discussions, and contribution rooms. Pretty cool. So that's pretty neat if you are a developer of core, part of the core part of the project, etc. Pretty neat. Also, WordCamp Larissa, November 9th and 10th. That's in Greece. I had to look that up. I had no idea where that was. It's in Greece. WordCamp Sevilla, November 9th and 10th as well. WordCamp Kerala, which is in India. Also just a single day camp, November 9th, which also, just putting it out there, it's probably because my birthday is that same weekend. November 9th is my birthday. So if you want to if you want to have me come somewhere, let me know. All right, so there's that. All right, is that it? Yeah, that's it for the upcoming events. Moving on, segment 1 in the news. 2 things here. The day that this episode drops, there is an election in the U.S., so I want you to vote, but I don't care. Well, I do care who you vote for per se, but I want you to vote, period. But if you're a U.S. citizen, but there's also the WP Weekly Awards you can go vote for. So a whole bunch of awards there again, from WordPress themes, page builders, block builders, of course, all the things you can vote for. Most importantly would be your favorite podcast. So scroll down. I think it's number 22 podcast. Yeah, number 22. So go ahead and if you vote for me if you want, that'd be great. So anyway, you can do that. That is a piece of the news. Also, lastly, news here, WordPress 6.7 release candidate 2 came out last week. So that's cool. If you want to test that, download it. Do not use it on a live site, of course, as I always say. So check that out. Link in the show notes there as well. That's it in the news. Moving right along, segment 2, the meat potatoes of this week's episode. So this week, I'm talking about the intersection of ideation versus action versus monetization. Now, there's an overlap here. So I'm focusing both on agency owners with a side hustle or multiple side hustles, maybe like me, as well as agency owners who get inquiries from a potential client with a new idea, because it's going to affect you as an agency owner as well. Just kind of something you can think about in maybe discussing it with them. So FYI, on the topic of side hustles, I did an episode titled 5 Ideas for Side Hustles back on episode 366. So take a listen to that if you're interested in hearing what that was. That was a while ago. But I did an episode called 5 Ideas for Side Hustles. So check that out. Okay, so also the timing of this seems pretty relevant to me because many people these days are looking for pivots, starting a new thing, kind of just trying to figure out different ways to have additional revenue streams. And for me, if you know me at all, I am always ideating. I think that's the right way to say that. And literally just last week, I was out on a run. I heard a podcast where someone mentioned a top-level domain that I didn't know even existed. It's .guide, so .guide. And me being me, I told my phone Siri to set a reminder to check on a domain or two because I had an idea, of course, when I got back home. I got home, an hour later, and lo and behold, checking hover.com, there were 3 available that would work for what I was looking to do. 2 of them with .guide, the other with .com, which is technically the stronger top-level domain, but pretty cool, and they're all in the running space. So we'll talk about that a little bit later, what I did there. So here are a few things to consider. I think I have 4 things to consider. Well, 3 plus the bonus here, obviously, ideation, what did I say here earlier? Action and monetization. So there's a little wrap up too. So here are the ideas, things to consider, starting with ideation. Now that spark of inspiration, when that new idea strikes, it's super thrilling. I know, I get this all the time. And people around me are like, wow, stop, And if you're juggling a full-time job or having one or more side hustles, the ideation brings a sense of endless possibility. But while the rush can be motivating, too many ideas can quickly lead to an overwhelm, sidetracking from the actionable goals of what you should be doing day to day. Okay. Now for solopreneurs, finding that balance is key. Ideation should be a time for exploration. You can schedule it, put it on your calendar, but it's also important to recognize when it's time to be transitioned from brainstorming to executing to a focused plan. Now, a couple of things here. On some of these topics, I'll do pros and cons. This one I will do pro. So there's 2 pros here. Creativity boost. A new idea can bring a fresh energy and innovation to a current project, which is pretty cool. It also gives you flexibility because it lets you explore some trends and align with interests in that arena of the trend and maybe even some skills. The con is the overwhelm. Too many ideas can and will distract from actionable goals. Again, I live this all the time. And of course, the analysis paralysis. Constant brainstorming can prevent real progress on anything and usually everything in your circle of influence, of your life. Okay, so moving to action, number 2 here. Now, action is where the idea comes to life. Committing to the execution turns the concept into a very, very tangible result. Building the momentum with each small step, the picking of the stack first, of course. Now, for solopreneurs, this stage is the primary essential stage. It's where learning happens, adjustments are made, and confidence can and usually does grow. Now, however, taking on too much at once can and will lead to burnout. I've said that before, I'll say it again. Prioritizing your ideas before diving in will ensure that you're moving forward in a way that's both sustainable and meaningful, helping you make real progress without sacrificing focus. Okay, now the pro here is learning opportunities. Even if the action isn't fully successful, it did provide a valuable feedback for any future efforts. The con, potential for early burnout. Because if you have without accurate pacing, like on a run, you're going to burn out down the line. It's going to happen inevitably. And number 3, monetization. Now, this is the step where passion meets profitability. Transformation of the idea itself could turn into income. And for a solopreneur, this is a powerful motivator, adding the financial value to work that began as a creative idea, that spark, right? So now you can it's paying off, right? However, trying to monetize too early can shift the focus from enjoyment to pressure, turning what once felt into, it was inspiring into a chore. And I've gotten feedback recently from my good friend Kyle, who was on last week's episode, about monetization too early before you figure out the actual key driving element of the idea itself. And I took that to heart, I really did. Now the key here is to first refine and test the idea, ensure that it's solid and sustainable. Approaching monetization thoughtfully, you can then build income streams that are rewarding without compromising the original excitement and purpose behind your work. I don't mean to get all foo-foo here, or woo-woo, I said is the way to say it, but it's true. You definitely want to see and have that balance is, do I even monetize? Do you need to? Should you? So there's that as well. Pros and cons. Pro, monetization, obviously, long-term viability, generating income, right? Con, it shifts the focus from a passion to a job. Now, if that's, that you may not want that as a job, whatever that is that you're doing, you may not want that at all. So keep that in mind as well. All right. Now the issue of overlap, I got those 3. The overlap, this is when things collide, the pitfalls here. When ideation, action, and monetization do overlap, it's very easy to lose focus. Trust me on this because I'm constantly brainstorming, and sometimes without acting on the lead of idea overload, I rush to monetization way too early. And then, of course, that compromises the quality of what I'm doing or the enjoyment, etc. And a very common pitfall arises about spreading ourselves way too thin. And again, burnout looms ahead. So the final thought on this, of course, there's more thoughts here, but the final thought is on the issue of the domains that I had ideas for. Now, as of this recording, it's been about 4 or 5 days since I had the idea. I have yet to buy any of them, but I'm 95% sure I'm going to get the .com one. I'm just learning how to push on the brakes a bit before I buy a new domain, before I have the new idea, the shiny object syndrome, if you will, to see, can I be consistent in building something that is either, in knowing how I'm going to build it and present it and do with it. Is it a hobby? Is it a passion? Is it a monetization? All those things. I'm now taking the time to figure this out, where all this lies. Now, all these can be done and asked of the same questions if you have a client who reaches out to you with a new idea. Especially if they're a current client and they want to do something on the side, they have a new idea, you can ask them the same questions and kind of have a checklist here to make sure that they're aware of what it takes for you as an agency owner to build the thing that they want you to build. So it kind of goes both ways, in my opinion. So yes, I'm going to buy a .com probably by the end of this month. And the more I go out running and thinking about the idea, the more I like it. And it is in the running space, by the way. And I could put it under runadam.run, my kind of blog and vlog over there, but I kind of want a separation because it's not really, I'm torn, but I'm probably going to buy it. Anyway, okay, so there you go. I'd love to hear about if you have any ideas there. You want to share anything about monetization, turning things into action, or even the ideation, the spark of inspiration. Let me know. All right, moving on. Tip and tool of the week. This week's tip, it's a service called Zeit. I got this from my friend Sally because I was using CloudUp for the longest time to take screenshots. They go to the cloud. I can send a link immediately. But CloudUp stopped working for me probably a year ago. I went back and looked at it, and it's still kind of broken. So there's no more updates to it. It's not being supported. Automatic bought them years and years ago, but nothing's happening there. So I needed a new service. I'm checking out Zeit.com. There's a free level and a pay level. I have no connection to them, but I'm going to check them out. And you could too if you want, if you're looking for that type of service. All right, that is it for this week. If you have any questions, go ahead, send it in via email, adam@KitchensinkWP.com, or use that SpeakPipe function on the website. If you want to support the show, you can do that. There's a few ways. Become a Patreon. You can buy me a coffee, and you can also sponsor the show. There's a form on the website. You fill it out, get right back to you. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Now go out to some awesome things with WordPress. All right, bye-bye.